We continue here on the Friday edition, Bickley Marotta Mornings, coming to you live from the Casino Arizona and Talking Stick Resort Studios, as Bick pointed out in the blast. No Cardinals football
for the next
Sunday.
2 Sundays.
Next 2 Sundays. We will not see the Cardinals until a week from Monday when they take on the Dallas Cowboys. And so I think it's time for reflection, a time for recalibration, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people suggest that 7 games into the season, hey, the season's over for the Arizona Cardinals. You could certainly build a case for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of football to be played. The only problem is that they are in such a hole in their own division.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know if there's enough shovels right now for this team if they do recalibrate.
Yeah, that is a problem because even if they do find some real answers and get some things straightened out, you're right. They've got 3 5-2 football teams in front of them. That's not ideal. And 3 5-2 football teams that all look really good in their own way. The Seahawks, in terms of just how solid they are defensively and offensively, the Rams, and how dominant they can be, and then the 49ers, just how resilient they are.
Resilient is the word.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a team that's just been ravaged again by injuries and continues to win football games. As promised, we are joined now by Pro Football Hall of Famer, the one, the only, Kurt Warner. We're talking about a 5-game losing streak for the Cardinals and where this team is and where do you point the fingers. And I think there's a lot of things that have gone wrong so far. But what do you surmise that the mindset of this team is with the bye week coming at this time for a team that is just struggling to find a way to win a football game, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key is struggling to find a way to win, but not playing bad football and not putting themselves in positions to win week in and week out. And so, there's definitely frustration in the locker room that, hey, guys, we could have a completely different record now if we've, find a way, offensively to make a couple plays or defensively to get a stop in the fourth quarter. So there's that frustration, but I think there's also the other side to say, guys, we're close and we can turn this thing around. We just got to figure out this little piece right here. And same with, Coach Gannon and the staff going, all right, guys are playing hard. Our guys are out there competing and giving ourselves a chance every single week. Now, how do we pin down what it is that we need to do differently, down the stretch or in the fourth quarter to finish these games? And, we talk about it all the time in locker rooms is learning how to win. We're learning how not to lose in those big moments. And sometimes it takes time with different pieces and young pieces to realize what exactly that means in the biggest moments, and having your best players step up and find a way to make a play in those moments. Guys never, letting down and playing their best football when it matters most. But yeah, I mean, I think there's probably both sides of the equation. Definitely frustration, where a team could sit back and go, man, we could be anywhere on the spectrum from, 7-0 to maybe what we are at 2-5. But feeling also good that, hey guys, this isn't, all lost. It's not as if, it's over and we're not playing good football and we can't win some games down the stretch, especially with, a lot of what you see, throughout the NFC is there's not necessarily that one dominant team that's out there or a bunch of really good teams. I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of middling at this point in the season. And so, I don't think they're a long ways out of it when you're talking about 7 teams that get to the playoffs, outside of the fact that obviously the division is playing really, really well.
Kurt, there was a time in Arizona where you were not the starting quarterback, but everyone in the locker room knew you should have been the starting quarterback. Take us to what you think is going on with the team, and how does the team get to the bottom of who to play, Jacoby Brissett or Kyler Murray?
Well, I mean, I think the bottom line is you've made your commitment to Kyler, and I don't know if there's really a chance to make a move. Again, whether it was Kyler in there or Jacoby, they were still playing close games. They were still in situations to win every football game. So it's not as if, this team was struggling and getting blown out with Kyler, and now all of a sudden Jacoby comes in and, and they're winning football. Like, it's not a drastic difference from that standpoint. And so I think your commitment is to Kyler to go, we're going to give him every opportunity to, see if he's that guy and that guy that can lead us, to the next phase of things, that Jacoby is probably not that guy for the Cardinals. As much as I love Jacoby and think he can be a starter in this league, I mean, they made the commitment to Kyler, and I think this is trying to figure out how to get him to his highest heights, or determine, is this, the highest heights, and is he the guy that that can lead us moving forward or not? So I don't know if there's really much of a debate here. Even though, Jacoby, like I said, has played good football, and the offense looks different because they're built a little bit differently as quarterbacks and how they play these last couple games. But I mean, to me, this is Kyler's job. And I guess you can say Kyler's job to kind of win or lose, just for the long term, the team saying, hey, this is our guy and we're going to commit to him for the long term, or if they decide to go a different direction at some point. But I think this is Kyler's job, and I don't think this is one of those things where, you're looking in the locker room and going, oh, do we start Jacoby or do we start Kyler? If Kyler's healthy, I believe he's the guy.
Kurt Warner, our guest here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings. On that subject, in the last 2 weeks, especially with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, Kurt, we've seen an uptick in the production passing-wise, 107 yards passing, more increased. We've seen some better operation in the red zone. And a lot of what observers see from Jacoby Brissett is his ability to stay in the pocket, to step up in the pocket, to subject himself to some hits in the pocket. It has paid off for the offense. I agree with you that they've made their commitment to Kyler Murray, but in year 7, Kyler's ability to get out and run obviously is a strength, but I don't think this offense works as well if you don't have a quarterback that's willing to step up in the pocket and maybe subject himself to some hits. Is that something that a quarterback of any stature can learn in year 7 of a career?
Again, it's hard to ask me if you can learn something when it's something that I learned and something that I had to do from the time I was very young. Mm-hmm. I've made a lot of statements about how, our NFL now has more athletic quarterbacks than we've ever had, guys that can do things that, guys in my era could not do, and guys that, are better and better athletes. So they get further and further in their career being the best athlete on the field. And so their fallback, as opposed to a guy like me, my fallback was I had to process, I had to get it out, I had to get through my progressions, I had to stand in the pocket because there was no other options. For these guys, there's another option, and that option has been a great option for them their entire lives. And so to ask them to rewire and, figure out the balance between the two and having to do this more or learn this at the highest level when the stakes are highest and you're playing a football game, I think is a very hard ask. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that, someone can't do it and they can't get better at it. I just think it's really hard to get to the highest level and then somebody say, okay, now you got to change the way you play. You got to rewire yourself to play a different way. And so I think that's difficult. Can it be done? I don't have any reference, personally to say it can or it can't, or how well of a processor you can become, at this stage in your life. Was I a good processor because I was a good processor, or was I a good processor because of the experiences that I had and the fact that I had to learn how to do it? And then maybe I played arena football where it was even fat. Like, I don't know the answer to that. So is it, he's not wired that way? Is it that, it takes a lot of time to learn that? And at this stage, is there enough time to learn that? I don't know the answer to that, but I do believe that, even with the great athletic quarterbacks we have in the NFL world right now, that you have to be able to consistently make plays in the pocket to be elite, to separate yourself, to give your team a chance to win in the biggest moments and on a consistent basis. That is something you have to be able to do when it's called for. And so I think your contrast to the two quarterbacks is very accurate. That Jacoby, and again, Jacoby's athletic, but he doesn't play that way. He plays as a pocket quarterback. And so he is used to that. And he's used to processing and standing in there and going through progressions and taking hits and delivering. Whereas Kyler is tremendous when his first guy's there and he can go back and throw it because he's such a gifted thrower of the football. But then he hasn't developed that patience or that understanding or that processing to be able to quickly go 2-3 and work through it in the pocket, as opposed to, okay, that's not there. Let me go and do the things that I've always been great at and create in the out of structure stuff. But I just think at this level, to try to live in an out of structure world is really, really hard.
Yeah.
To give me 3 or 4 out of structure special plays a game. Yeah. I mean, Kyler and Lamar and all those guys can do that at an extreme level. It's just living in that world as opposed to allowing the offense to work for you, I think is a tough formula to consistently win. You can win a game and, you can win a couple along the way, but to consistently play at that level, I believe the pieces inside the pocket are things that you have to be able to do.
Kurt, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for sticking with us through the
all right, guys,
tech issues. Care. Kurt Warner, Pro Football Hall of Famer, joining us here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.